As we know, folks, we are back with another Fight Night recap. Kind of crazy. This was not even an interesting, but it was kind of it was a weird, not a weird, but it was a good fight night. Fight night is so weird to say. I see daylight and I'm like, whoa, this is great. But we'll say who I think should match up with who next, and we'll kind of go from there and reaction, so on and so forth. Here we go. Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov. This fight was really, really interesting. I had Izzy originally winning by decision. I was wrong. I do not think, I know everyone's saying, oh, is Izzy washed? No, he's not washed. He's one of the greatest middleweights of all time and one of the best strikers we've ever seen. He's 35. It's not like he's like 45 years old and getting knocked out 6 times in a row, right? He just lost by by knockout to Nassourdine. Yes, that is true. He then had a really competitive fight against Dricus. It was 2-2 going into the 5th or whatever it was, but Izzy got subbed. I understand it was showboating a bit, but he looked good in his past 2 fights. I don't accept the excuse that he wasn't ready for his last fight. I thought he was ready. He looked incredible. I think Dricus is just that next level, and I think we're in that next era of middleweights. And Nassourdine is part of that next era. Him, Khamzat, DDP, Kaio, the list goes on. I think Sean will eventually fall off. He's a great fighter, but I think he'll eventually fall off. Rob, love him. He's my favorite fighter. It's that new era that's coming in, and it's going to be tougher and tougher for guys like Izzy and Rob to keep going. Again, love both of them. They're 2 of my favorite fighters ever. But you're talking about an era where, it's just not the same. So for Izzy in his next fight, I do want him to take some time off, but I see his next fight being up against someone. Maybe he moves up to light heavyweight. I could see him moving up and maybe having some success there. But those guys are a lot bigger. But Izzy looks bigger. He's not as agile like karate like he used to be. So I could see Izzy moving up to 205 and giving that a crack in a main event. Or if he wanted to stay at middleweight, I think a fight between him and Caio Borralho is a really, really good fight. Or if he's going to go a little further down the rankings, honestly, him and MVP would be a really good fight. That's one I'd very much like to see if MVP were to stay at 185. Even just like looking at the rankings, it's tough because like Izzy's number 2. Now he's going to go down, and it's weird to think about. He's going to be number 4, number 5. It's just a question of whether he's going to be ahead or behind of Rob. But Nassourdine's going to go to number 2 or 3. Khamzat maybe 2 or 3, vice versa. Rob 4 or 5, vice versa. I could see Izzy versus Brendan Allen maybe. That could be a fight. It's just weird to think about Izzy fighting so far down the list. Roman Dolidze has a fight coming up. You never know. Maybe, the winner of him and Vettori. I don't want to see Vettori fight Izzy, but, maybe. They just announced Michel Pereira against Abus, so we'll see what happens there. But I think Izzy will fight a little further down the list. Nassourdine, I see him either fighting for, and this is really simple. He'll either fight for the title against the winner of Dricus and Strickland. I think if Strickland does win and it's a close fight, they'll do a trilogy. But I could see Nassourdine fighting the winner, or if they do the trilogy, fighting Khamzat for a number 1 contender or interim middleweight title. I think Imavov does deserve it. More so over Khamzat. Nassourdine has been in the middleweight division longer, has a more impressive win streak, I would say. Weird to say, but, he just knocked out Izzy. He's got a knockout win over Jared Cannonier. No matter how controversial, it's still a TKO. He's got a win over Brendan Allen in a decisive decision in Paris. So Imavov is racking up these wins against top contenders. So maybe him versus Khamzat is the fight, or for the title. Don't know. Shar Magomedov needs to take a step back. It is middleweight. I thought he looked flat. I actually would like to see him versus the loser of Dolidze versus Abus. Not Dolidze. I actually like to see Shar versus Michel Pereira. That'd be a good fight, no matter whether Michel wins or loses. I want that fight. MVP wants to go back to 170. He called out Leon Edwards in an interview. I don't hate that fight. But if we're looking at the middleweight rankings, he does deserve a ranked opponent. I mean, he's ranked 15 at welterweight. He just beat 14 at middleweight. If he wanted to stay at middleweight, him versus Anthony Hernandez would be a banger. Or if he's going to stay at 170, maybe MVP versus Wonderboy. But they don't want to fight each other, so Jeff Neal or Michael Morales would be a good fight as well. It's a weird position to be in, but he could fight in either division. I think he'd do well. I thought he looked great. Striking was incredible. MVP is one of those strikers that you just are entertained by. So, Pavlovich, Jairzinho, I want to see Pavlovich and Gane. It's a fight we have not seen yet at heavyweight. Excuse me. That's what I want to see next. For Jairzinho, it's tough because he was timid. And I don't want to say it was a bad fight, but it was. So there's no real way to go around it. But if we're going to look at the heavyweight rankings, Jairzinho's number 8. He just lost. Give me Jairzinho, Derek Lewis. I don't hate it. Or Jairzinho versus Rogerio. I like that fight too. Or Jairzinho and Shamil. There's a lot of fights for him. Saeed versus Vinicius. I thought this fight was incredible. I thought the winner of this fight was going to deserve a top 15 bantamweight opponent. And that still stands true. I thought Saeed looked really good until he started slowing down and gassing out. And broke. I think Vinicius broke him and with a broken rib. So that was really impressive. So I think he deserves a top 15 opponent. And honestly, I would probably give him someone respected. Either Amin Zahabi or Jose Aldo. Aldo versus Vinicius would be a fantastic fight. That's explosive and fun. So give me that. Zaim versus Mike Davis. I thought Zaim looked incredible. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's not ranked yet, but he does deserve a top 15 ranked opponent at lightweight. So if I had to pick anyone, he's not going to fight Benoit. Fiziev wants to fight up. Moicano wants to fight up, and he deserves that. Jalen Turner. I would say Faris Zahim versus Jalen Turner would be the fight for me. I think their matchup would look really, really well together. And, dude, that would be a really, really good fight. Mike Davis, it's unfortunate, but he did not look like the Mike Davis we know. I don't think that means he's bad by any means. He just needs to, take a step back. Honestly, if we're going to match up people on the card, Terrence McKinney versus Mike Davis would be a really good fight. Or McKinney versus Benoit Saint-Denis. So they're spoiling down the list. But either one of those fights. Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Olfi. I thought Muhammad looked really, really good. If we're going to match him up against someone ranked at featherweight, I think a lot of these people do. Him and Muhammad versus Edson Barboza. Give me that fight. Shamil Gaziv. I'd like to see him versus Tai Tuivasa. That'd be a fun fight. Jasmine Jazz Ducivius. Again, she won against Mayra Bueno Silva. You saw in the last video, I gave my comments on that. I thought she looked really, really good. If we're going to look at flyweight, give me her versus Amanda Ribas. I don't hate that fight. Or if she wants to really go up the rankings, Katlyn Serminara. Sorry. Katlyn Serminara. That's the fight I'd like to see. That's really most of it. I don't really know what I would want to do with these people. With Bogdan and Hamdi. I think the next time we're in the Middle East, we'll see Hamdi, which probably would be later this year, sometime in October or November. I don't hate it, but it's heavyweight, so maybe if they were going to give him a contender, if they really wanted to shoot him up the rankings, heavyweight is wide open. So that's what makes it tough, right? If we were to really look at the heavyweight rankings, Waldo Cortez. I could also see Hamdi versus Justin Tafa. I'd like to see one of the Tafa brothers potentially against Hamdi. That'd be a good fight as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Saudi Arabia was a great fight night. It was awesome that it was during the day. That's one of the best things about it, is that it was in the middle of the day, and that was fantastic. I still see the sun, and it was a really good time. But again, I do not. Everyone's saying Izzy's washed. He's not washed. Chill the fuck out. He is not a washed individual. He got caught. He looked great in the first round. Yes, he took one shovel uppercut. Okay, he took one shovel hit. Fine. He wasn't stunned. He wasn't hurt. But also, Father Time beats everybody, folks. Let's not forget that. Father Time beats everybody. I thought Izzy looked fine up until he got caught. He does look like he has slowed down. I won't deny that. But he's 35, and he's one of the greatest middleweights ever. I think let him have one more shot. If he loses, then okay, we'll call for retirement. If he did decide to retire now, I think that'd be a shame. But I don't think, do I think he could beat Dreykus? Yeah, I think he could beat anyone in the top 10 on a good night. But it's not guaranteed anymore that it's like, oh my God, he's incredible. I think at 205 he'd have a lot more trouble, like against guys like Magomed and Yuri, Jan even. Wow, they flipped Jan and Jamal. Okay. Rakic, Khalil. I think Khalil knocks Izzy out. Top 5, it's tough for Izzy. Beyond that, he won't fight Olberg, but beyond that, I think he'd beat a Vulcan. He'd beat a Nikita. Rakic probably would be his highest ranked opponent that he would, maybe Jamal. Everyone else he beats comfortably. But you look at the middleweight division, right? He's beaten Marvin twice. He's beaten Rob twice. He's beaten Alex Pereira, who's at 205 and is the champ. I mean, you go to Paulo Costa's beaten him. He would beat a lot. Jared Cannonier beat him. So Izzy has racked up a lot of wins against ranked middleweights. Let's chill out, people. Let's chill out for a minute. I see it all over Twitter. Oh my God, he's washed. Relax, okay? I'll see you guys on the next episode where we're going to be talking about UFC 312, Strickland versus Duplessis 2, or Duplessis versus Strickland 2. I have a lot of thoughts on that card, but I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.